Falcons on the clock at 7, Nick, with your pick. Where are you going with this spot?
Okay, so pretty much the Falcons, I think, could go almost any which way with this position, and it would get people. People are going to dislike this pick probably no matter what. Uh, a lot of people are going to be very upset if I took Quentin Johnson here at this pick to take another wide receiver. I think he's different, more different than every other single player in this wide receiver class this year. He's 6'4", 220, and runs like a gazelle in the open field. You pair that with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I mean, you're talking about the size, a trio of weapons that nobody in the NFL probably can match as far as a size and physicality perspective, and also really building a nest for a quarterback. There would be absolutely no excuse for Desmond Ridder if I took a Quentin Johnston here if he didn't get it done. So this is he's one that stands out here for me. You also have, I guess my real question for you is, Scott, this is long-term thinking, but is Caleb McGarry back on anything beyond the tag?
That's where this becomes interesting.
Yes.
If Caleb McGarry doesn't come back, you've got a big hole at right tackle.
Yes.
And you've got a front office that obviously doesn't care about the defense. I'm exaggerating, but they've gone 2 pass catchers in the top 10 the last 2 years when your offensive line was in question and your quarterback was in question and your defense was a shambles. Mm-hmm. So if Caleb McGarry isn't re-signed, we're going to operate under the assumption that he is. I think the Falcons would be in the driver's seat. I think he's pretty happy here. He's played well here, and the Falcons have the money to pay him. I'm going to work under the assumption that Caleb McGarry is back. But if he is not, offensive tackle at 7, considering Jake Matthews is in his 30s also, becomes a spot you seriously have to take a look.
And Jake Matthews' contract, you can move on from him in 2024.
He's going to get restructured, I promise you.
Probably get restructured. Okay, well, the reason I was asking that is because I like to give myself options at the offensive line position, and the top 2 offensive linemen in this class both have guard and tackle experience, which gives you a lot of versatility. You have a hole at left guard right now and question marks there. So this is not a great spot. If Myles Murphy was there, I would have taken him. I see also somebody saying Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. would have already been off the board if he was available in this class. In my opinion, I probably would have taken him with number 4 overall, given the talent that we had available. I think in this one, honestly, the best case scenario would be a trade down. If not trade down, I have 4 names right now that stick out to me that are non-quarterbacks. Quentin Johnson is one of them. I know I can't do that to you, Scott. Peter Skoronski is one of them. I think he's purely a guard. I can't imagine using a pick at guard. My number 1 cornerback in this class is Christian Johnson, who is the cornerback out of not Keely Ringo. He's I don't think he's as
interesting though, and that's where the trade down comes in. Do I come down and can I get Keely Ringo in a little bit later? That'd be interesting.
It would be. I think that Christian Johnson is probably the best one here. I don't even know where he's at on this board here. I think he'll end up moving it up to be the number 1. Maybe we missed him. The number 1 cornerback in the class, personally speaking. But Scott, I might have to ask you for your opinion on this one as well. I'm leaning Paris Johnson Jr. To give myself options on the offensive line. We've not been super impressed with Jake Matthews. I think he becomes a potential trade candidate, and Paris Johnson Jr. was awesome at left guard and then moved out to left tackle and has been awesome there as well. You want to make a strength to strength. You like what the teams like the Cowboys have been doing for a number of years. You like what the teams like the Lions are doing right now with a really strong offensive line. I think that if you bring Paris Johnson Jr., you give yourself a heck of a lot of options on the offensive line going forward, because he's not only the number 1 tackle in the class, in my opinion, but he can also live at guard for a couple seasons as well. Again, I don't really like any of the options here. I see everybody saying trade down.
We're not trading down in this right now. Okay, but yeah, that'd be great, but we're not going to trade down at this point. And
I'm going to go with Paris Johnson Jr. again because he's my number 1 offensive lineman in this class. And I think you give yourself options. Let's say you only get the tag on Caleb McGarry. Well, there's your right tackle of the future right there. Is going to be easy to flip over there. You're going to be excited about that. You want to move on.
If it comes down to me tagging Caleb McGarry at $21 million, I'm not doing it. I'm drafting a guy. Whether it becomes Paris Johnson Jr. or not. Now, again, you should have one of those spots available, at least one of those spots available that went ahead of you. I'm not going offensive line there. I'm thinking I've got some free agent money and I can find a mauler that that can fit the I want to run it down your dang throat scheme a little bit better and a little bit cheaper. That I wouldn't go offensive line there, but like I said, depending on what Caleb McGarry does, and Jake Matthews is getting older, if you don't have McGarry re-signed, offensive tackle becomes a priority then.
How you build an offensive line is the same way you keep a fire going. You have to add a log before you're down to embers. You have to keep feeding it. And I think that's something that the Falcons team has not had for a number of years now. And if you want to run this run-centric, efficient scheme, you probably got to have some dudes up front there. So
speaking of dudes up front, if I think I've got a legit pass rusher, that's where I'm going on here, or corner. So again, the draft has it. If the edge rushers were available 2 years ago that were there last year, Kyle Pitts isn't a Falcon. Aiden Hutchinson is, Kayvon Thibodeau is, Trayvon Walker is. They draft those guys. They weren't there. Last year, you didn't, wide receiver was a need, but there's so many other things that were needed also that, you'd go edge here again if you feel an edge is worthy of a top 10 pick. The phrase best player available rankles me just a little bit. Oh, take best player available. That's subjective. That's what bothers me about this is like people state that like it's a fact. It's not a fact. It's subjective. If you get 10 people and put together a top 20 list, nobody's going to have the same order. This isn't picking numbers off of Madden. Oh, well, he's a 98 and this guy's a 97. I'm going to take the 98. It's subjective. So you've got tiers, as Nick likes to say. You've got tiers of guys. And if I've got 3 players in that top group of where I'm picking, and then there's a little bit drop off in that tier, I'm going to pick 1 positional value, 2, and I'm going to try and fit a need. So my need is defense, big time. I need another wide receiver on offense. I might need a quarterback. That is still not off the table completely. So if I've got one of those defenders in my top tier where I'm picking, whether it's a corner or an edge or a big DL, that's where I'm going with this pick. I just don't know if these guys fit the bill just yet, Nick.